Hello, I'm Dr. Lucy Horton, Assistant Professor of Medicine and Infectious Disease Specialist at UC San Diego Health. Joining me today is Dr. Monica Gandhi, Associate Division Chief of the Division of HIV, Infectious Disease, and Global Medicine at UCSF.
Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. And today we'll be discussing recent updates to the use of anti-SARS-CoV-2 monoclonal antibodies. So we are learning more and more about BA.2.12.1. We know that the BA.2 family has multiple new mutations compared with BA.1. With these mutations, it appears to be more transmissible, but at least in the United States, has not led to large increases in hospitalizations. BA.2.12.1 is at least as transmissible and immune-evasive as BA.2. The regulatory status of anti-SARS-CoV-2 monoclonal antibodies continues to evolve. In December of 2021, TIGS and SIL received an EUA for pre-exposure prophylaxis in immune-compromised people. At the same time, BAM-EDI and CAS-MDEV were found to no longer be effective against the Omicron variant, and thus are no longer authorized for treatment. Then in February 2022, BEV received an EUA for treatment. Soon after, in March and April of 2022, sotrovimab was then found to be ineffective against BA.2 and is no longer authorized for treatment. So how has the rise of the BA.2 subvariant changed clinical practice and monoclonal antibody use?
You know, what we've been doing in our practice is right. We had to kind of retire everything. Sotrovimab was the most commonly used during BA.1, and we left everything aside now that we have the BA.2, and specifically at this point BA.2.12.1 is the most predominant subvariant in the United States. I think accounting at this point for about over 60% of cases. So we're really just using two monoclonal antibodies and then more antivirals. The monoclonal antibodies are BEB for treatment, and we're still using our TIG-SIL as needed for pre-exposure prophylaxis in very immunocompromised patients to protect them for those full 6 months. With the double dose of that, looks like 82% protection against any symptomatic COVID. And then because we do have now BA.2.12.1, we're using antivirals. And I would like to point out that molnupiravir, which is not as used as Paxlovid, in the MOVE-OUT trial, they just did a sub-analysis of immunosuppressed patients, and molnupiravir worked really well. Actually, it showed over an 80% reduction in hospitalizations and deaths. So we're pretty intrigued by molnupiravir for patients who have contraindications to Paxlovid because of drug-drug interactions. Otherwise, Paxlovid is the one that we're using more commonly, 5 days, twice a day, oral regimen. And we're kind of starting it a couple of days into treatment because of the concern for rebound.
And how do you use the NIH guidelines regarding treatment of non-hospitalized patients with COVID-19 in your clinical practice?
Yes, I mean, it really mostly is around the oral antivirals. So we really are reaching a lot for Paxlovid if patients are at risk for severe breakthrough infection. So having multiple risk factors for that. Molnupiravir we're using definitely as well for patients who have drug-drug interactions with Paxlovid. Then IV remdesivir, not very often in the outpatient setting, but one advantage of that is that you can use it for children less than 12 years old, because these monoclonals and the Paxlovid and molnupiravir are approved really for adults. And then finally, monoclonal antibodies when needed, as just discussed, BEB for treatment, and TIG-SIL for pre-exposure prophylaxis.
I think it's nice to have, at this point, a variety of different treatment options that we can kind of pick and choose from depending on new variants and specific patient populations. And it seems like all of them are still key players in the treatment of COVID-19 at this point.
I agree. To minimize the effects of this virus, it's both vaccination and we need these treatments. So I too am pleased with what we have right now.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Great to talk to you.
And for more information on anti-SARS-CoV-2 monoclonal antibodies, please visit the series landing page at exchangecme.com. And for the latest updates on COVID-19, subscribe to Exchange CME's YouTube channel and check back regularly. Thank you.